www.offthecorner.net. I'm Rallo, and you are watching the F.A.C.T Project. And F.A.C.T, of course, is an acronym that stands for Fundamental African Centered Thought. The goal here on the F.A.C.T Project is to convey some facts and some information to members of our community. Today is the first Monday of the month. So we got my brother, the great author, educator, and activist, Ajay Taemba. Peace and Black Power, brother Ajay. Thank you for joining us today, brother.
Peace and Black Power. Always my pleasure, my brother. Always my pleasure.
Yeah, it's always a good conversation when you're on, and the reaction is always good. So, and you're very consistent too, and I appreciate that. So, thank you for that.
No doubt.
Yeah, I want to first lead by thanking you for doing on Harlem Liberation School. You did a video short about the campaign against Netflix over the animated reboot of Good Times, which portrays Black people in a very deplorable and stereotypical way. What was the goal of that short that you put out there on TikTok?
Well, I want to give a shout out to C-Mo-Tap, man. C-Mo-Tap has been around for a long time. And you got people like Dr. James McIntosh, Sister Betty Dobson, a whole lot of our elders, our living babas and mamas and queen mothers in the movement roll with C-Mo-Tap. They should be considered as many of our jegnas still living in the movement. And they founded to address the issue of offensive media that was offensive to African, i.e. African American, i.e. New African, i.e. Black people. So what they're doing is right in line with what they were founded to do. They're challenging what they feel is and I'm not going to say what they feel. It actually is offensive. I heard what they were saying. I went and looked at it. I said, oh, man, we back to this type of crap. You know, so they took Good Times, which a lot of us grew up on. And people may have problems with Good Times, but it did show a Black man who was a Black man and woman in a household. It showed a family, had one son who may have had questionable, they had one son that was political, one son that was goofy, but they showed you kind of a working class Black family working it out together, and they dealt with other issues. This cartoon, I think the people are like their grandson. I think the dude is like their grandson of James and Florida Evans in the cartoon. And it's really glorifying. It's making our families and our young people look like they're hypersexualized, sexually deviant, that they're ignorant, that they're inappropriate with their language, that they're overly violent, is crass. So I just wanted to do, through Harlem Liberation School, do a little piece just to make sure that message, and they're also asking us to cancel our Netflix subscriptions. So I wanted to, as the call to action. So I wanted to make sure that information got out to possibly a younger audience who gravitates to TikTok. I also know that when you put a video on TikTok, man, like a YouTube video might take a day, depending on your channel, to get 50 views. It might take 4 days to get 200. I put this up yesterday. It's got almost 300 views already on TikTok. So wow. TikTok, it moves really fast. So I'm hoping, and we're hoping at Harlem Liberation School that little contribution will go a long way just in spreading the word. And we left their number so people can actually call the people at C-Mo-Tap. We left their link on Facebook so people can get in touch with them. So we take it back to C-Mo-Tap, So yeah. I hope it helps, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will. I'm grateful for that. I not only want to salute C-Mo-Tap, but also salute Brother Kwabena with the Clear the Airways project, because he's always in the street, always engaged in whatever the action is, and he's always very adamant about spreading the word. So I want to give a shout out to him. And before we go into today's topic, which is Black history is more than feel-good trivia, I do want to mention that there are two actions taking place around the campaign against Netflix. One is going to be tomorrow, which is March the 4th, in front of Madison Square Garden at 6:30 p.m. So if you're in New York City, or if you're going to be in the New York area, we would encourage you to come out and support the demonstration. Not only that, Thursday, March the 6th, they're going to also be in front of Barclays Arena demonstrating before the basketball game against the Brooklyn Nets. So I just want to put that out there. See if I can flash the flyer before we get off. I would like to think that I can mention that again before we get off at the end. And before we get into the subject, I have to mention that, on a bit of a sad note, that we lost the great Angie Stone this weekend. So I just wanted to put that out there to see what your thoughts were around Angie Stone.
Well, being that I'm 56, I've been through medical issues, and I'm seeing a lot of friends and comrades and former classmates dying. It's put me in a place where I'm like, wow, at any given minute, I can hear of another person whom I respect, who I've worked with, or whose work I respected from a distance, dies. So when I heard it, I was very shocked. And I was saddened because she had meaning in the sense of I identify her with hip hop being one of the particularly pioneering women. For people who don't know, she was in a group called Sequence. We're going to funk you right on up. We're going to funk you right on up. Get up, 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 get up. Sit back down. We're going to funk, so that's hip hop, right? So I was like, oh, man. And then she also was with a brother who a lot of us came up respecting in the 90s, who kind of kicked off the neo soul piece, and that was D'Angelo, right? She had a child with him. And then there's the thing of she did this song called Brother. She had a slow version and she had a hip hop version. Woo! And she had some powerful brothers in that video. Some of them are questionable because we've learned things about some of them now.
Right, exactly.
We're not going to get into that.
Another
but
story.
She has some powerful black men, and the imagery of that, man, it so impacted me that when I do my little devotionals every day, that's one of the songs on that playlist I always play. Nice. That's how important that is. So she will be missed, man. Not just her singing ability, but what she brought spiritually and politically to the table.
Yeah.
That she, to my knowledge, she never kind of brought shame or dishonor to the race.
Nice. That's true.
And she didn't have to do no song called Brother for Black Men. Stop playing. That ain't no career booster. That's for sure.
You're right about that.
So that was a project of love that she did. And she gets much respect for me for that.
Yeah, she made history. And this is something, and everything that's being mentioned about Angie Stone right now, they're not mentioning the fact that she made history as part of the first female rap group on record. There was no female rap group on record before Angie B, which she was at the time. She was Angie B, and the Sequence. That's so, right. This is a monumental figure that is historical in the history of recorded rap. And I think that's, it's going without being mentioned, in the news, because I heard something on NPR even up to a little while ago. They mentioned her, and they mentioned her career in R&B and neo soul music. Didn't mention anything about hip hop, and didn't mention the fact that she's actually a historical figure in the history of recorded hip hop. Not only that, I feel kind of close to the situation in that I used to do a radio show years ago, and I used to interview a lot of the veteran rap artists. And I did an interview with Little Rodney C, who was in the Funky 4+1 More. You may remember the name. Little Rodney C, his government name is actually Rodney Stone. Him and Angie B actually got married, which is where the name Stone comes from, in Angie Stone. And so I never met Angie Stone, but because I met and befriended her, who was ex-husband at the time, I feel closer to the situation, And so it bothers me that she made her transition in an auto accident. But at the same time, we can still hold her up and say that she was a very positive figure in music, as well as someone that made history. That's an exception. Not only that, you mentioned Funk You Up. She had another record with Angie B. No, I'm sorry, not Angie B, but it was called Spoonie G Meets the Sequence. This is going back to early 80, 81, you know, somewhere in there. And up until when she did make her transition, she was still performing. So look at her duration in the industry. That's almost 50 years. You can't point to many artists that could say that they've had almost a 50-year career in music the way Angie Stone has. So she's an exception.
That's
you
right.
See Lauryn Hill, who started out as hip hop and she went more into singing, but her career didn't last half as long as a Angie Stone. So yeah, I want to definitely give her props, man, and big up to Angie Stone. But
much respect, Angie. Much respect.
Harlem Liberation School, which I'm encouraging everybody to go to. The link is in the chat. The YouTube link is in the chat. You definitely want to see this channel, Harlem Liberation School. Brother Ajay always touching on interesting topics, having great guests, and having these great conversations. You did something recently where you talked about history, Black history. We're on the heels of Black History Month. You did something. We talked about history and saying that Black history should be more than just feel-good trivia. What do you mean when you say that? Explain that.
Yes, sir. First of all, peace to all the fam. DJ Tiger, I see you in the building, making that good music, keeping hip-hop alive. My brother, much respect. AC with Ursula, I see you, Queen. Thank you for coming on the broadcast with Knowledgeable on Allah and for your monetary donation. We respect that. Much love. Well, family, here's the thing. History is rendered, is produced, is approached in different ways. It's something called historiography. How do we approach history? How are we using history? So think of it as this analogy. When you were in elementary school, you did your multiplication table, your times tables, and they went down the row. 2 times 2 is 4, right? And you went through the whole class. That's how you learned your basic multiplication. But if you still doing that in high school, we got a problem. In high school, you're now taking that and you're getting with algebra, geometry, trigonometry. You're now doing advanced math based on that elementary school foundation of math. So if you can follow me with that, I'm saying the same thing for history. When we were in elementary school and they had the Black, if you were privileged to have a Black History Month, I went to a school in my hood with almost all Black teachers. So they had we did Black history stuff. And you say Harriet Tubman was born and she was enslaved and she freed the slaves. I don't know if y'all remember that. If y'all participated? I did. I remember that. Or you had to read something, or you read a part of a speech. That was cool in elementary school.
That's right.
But we're grown people now, family. So it's not enough just to say, did you know the first Black abolitionist, or the first Black person that had a newspaper, or the first Black person that was a barber? And I'm not saying that we should not acknowledge our people. But history, if we use it and understand it properly, has answers for us. So right now, people running scared. Oh, they're going to fire. They're firing federal workers. Excuse me. People are like, how do I get back the money? Or people were working with, let's say, some type of race-based workshops, working with corporations. They're going to get debted. They debt and all that. So now a lot of people are losing work. So Black people say, how are we going to replace the money that we're no longer going to have? Right? History has answers for that. Cooperative economics, cooperative enterprises. We just had a program about that. We had a professor on, Professor Jessica Gordon Nimbart is like the premier expert in the history of Black economic cooperatives. And she said very clearly that these were people who many times couldn't read or write, sign their name, could not tell you when they were born, but they had enough sense to know we're going to take our little bit of money we get in our little pennies and our niggas, we're going to put them together. And over time, that little bit of money, those contributions, allowed them to create schools, banks. There's the penny bank, created by a sister. I'm going to do something on her for this month, for Women's History Month.
Maggie Lena Moore. I forgot. I think the name is.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not talking about
Moore or Walker, one of those.
Walker. Might be
With
Walker.
pennies
Yes.
that we throw away or don't count. So there's answers in the history. We cannot just look at it as I'm going to find a hero, sure, and feel proud. Yes, get your pride, family. But by now, we have enough examples. Even our little kids have some type of historical reference of Frederick Douglass, maybe a little bit of Malcolm X, maybe Dr. King, Rosa Parks. Now we got to move from elementary school with the history, and we got to get to grad school, families. We got to get free.
Yeah.
We got people attacking us. Elders are scared. Children are scared. Grown men are scared. What do we do when police come? What's our recourse? What's our response? History has answers, family. We got a group called Deacons for Self-Defense, family. And for those of y'all who are Christians said we can't do that, they came out the church. They were in the church. That's why they're called Deacons for Self-Defense. And it was their religious sense that told them God ain't put us here to be brutalized by nobody. They didn't use their religion to cower in fear. They used it to man up. So even if you're in spiritual faiths, you can go out there and you can set up things to protect the community. That's in history. We have the Black Panther Party that actually were patrolling the police. They were policing the police, right? We had gun clubs and things of that nature, which has found a kind of a resurgence now in this day and time. So there are answers economically, politically. People talking about, what are we going to do politically? What about the Gary, Indiana conference in 71, 72? Convened by our good brother, ancestor, Amiri Baraka, who started the Black Arts Movement, by the way. He wasn't just a poet. He was a leader as well. And they were trying to get Black people all over the country to form an independent, national Black political party. That's still on the table. We haven't really done that yet. So if we get past did you know the first so-and-so, the first shoe shiner was so-and-so, and we get into analytical history, functional history, then we're going to find a lot of answers to things. What are we going to do with economics? How do we get our families together? How do we do this? How do we blend spirituality with politics? It's all in the history, because people who are way ahead of their time in their thinking, as you know, good brother, left blueprints. These are in books. These are in some of our documentaries. And these are in the living memories of our elders who walk the earth right now. If you sat them down and said, well, grandma, grandpa, because I did this. I said, grandma, grandpa, how did y'all survive during the Great Depression? See, we think it's tight now. But imagine that you going as a grown man and woman with your family to a soup line, and that soup line is 5 blocks long, single file.
Yeah.
For a bowl of soup and a piece of bread. Imagine that your life savings was in a bank and all the banks collapsed because everybody's trying to get their money out, right? The bank doesn't have all your money in it. That's called fractional reserves. That's another show. How the bank is over with the money. So if everybody comes get their money out, the bank's closed. So the banks collapse. So people lost their life savings. So I asked, how did y'all survive? You know what the answer was?
What was it?
They did things like they sold their own clothes. They did things like they didn't call them buying clubs then, but the Black people would take their money and go shop together at a certain place to get food in bulk or material to make clothing in bulk. Things that churches led the way in a lot of these things, by the way. Right? So, in other words, they used cooperative economics is how they got over. And, of course, they had to tighten their belts. They had to have discipline. They had to say, we would love to have it, but we can't do that right now. We got to survive. And brighter days will come. And they did. So I'm urging our people with that video, and I've written about it, that we have to look at history as a tool. History is a weapon. I remember going off to school and meeting all these people and going to these workshops here in Harlem and reading all these books. And I came to college on fire. Immature as all get out emotionally, but politically on fire. I was ready. When I ran to that Student African American Society, it was like a dream come true. Now I got to operationalize all this stuff I've been reading about, right? So I hit the ground running because I had that background of what? The history. My father told me, my mother, my grandparents, and all that reading. The history is very important. It's almost like, if you have a grandparent, some type of community elder who you talk to regularly, and they kind of school you on how things used to be. Now imagine every time you read a book by Frederick Douglass or any brother or sister who is now deceased, it's the same thing. But now you don't have to rely on just the people you know. You can read books about people you never met. So imagine now you getting the cumulative knowledge of hundreds, thousands of Black people who came before you, who fought through hard times. You're getting all that information, and you're alive to put it to use. So history should be seen more as a tool, a weapon, and a shield. History can protect you. History can get you strapped up. Right? History can have you building schools and banks and museums. History can have you when everybody else got their panties in a bunch and they running scared. Oh, Trump! Oh my God! You know that history. We've been through slavery, Jack. What you talking about? We've been through situations where your lady was raped in front of you and dare you to say something. Where your kids was taken away within a moment's notice and you were told after the fact. Where you were branded in your back, your breast, your thigh with the initials of the white man slave owner. And we got through that. So once you got the history, you're like, man, we're going to get through this too. This, as we say in spiritual formations, this too shall pass. We're going to get through this. But if you ain't got that history, and it should come from your family, preferably your community and your community organizations. But if you don't get it wherever you get it, you're going to be really at a disadvantage. So that's what I'm really trying to get across. Somebody said, this person has the name Diddy's baby up, man. You crazy, man. He says, what college? I went to Syracuse, undergrad. But we came on fire. Look, here's the other thing. If you come up in a world where people are teaching you are nothing, have nothing, can be nothing, that you ugly and stank and you're lazy, you have no initiative, you don't have no innovative ideas, and you're a child, you're at a disadvantage. Your whole life is going to be spent trying to find out who you are. What can I do? Afraid to take risks. I'm letting other people, right? But if you a kid that is getting fed that knowledge, this is what happens. You say, wait a minute, I can't be ugly because these people are tanning themselves to get dark. And then you learn about what melanin is and how protective it is and all of these energetic things and spiritual things related to melanin. And then you say, well, when I look at these statues from ancient societies, I see the noses and the lips like mine. I see braids. You'll see cornrows. You'll see locks. And you say, wait a minute. This is the first people on this earth. This protects us from the sun and skin cancer. We ain't ugly at all. And then you read what ancient white historians wrote about us, and you say, wow, they said we were beautiful people. That we were that people around the world came to Africa to learn.
That's right.
Specifically places like Nubia and Kemet.
That's right.
In Mali, right? Timbuktu. And then you say, wow, we weren't always broke and poor and begging other people. The richest man on earth in the world is now universally recognized as being Mansa Musa.
Correct.
Those of us who knew our history knew that years ago.
Yes,
But now
correct.
the world is now bearing witness to that.
Mm, mm.
So once you get the history, you have the power to refute all the negative messaging that we're ugly, we're dumb, we haven't accomplished nothing, we're scared. You start realizing Shaka Zulu was a beast when it comes to military and what we call South Africa now. You get away from this thing that, that God or the divine, the Most High, was sexist. That the Most High made men over women. You start realizing that's a European concept, because
Yes,
in African societies there was God and there was goddess,
duality.
and none was seen as being more important than the other, until our best friend came, didn't understand the allegories and the metaphysical teachings, and perverted it and put sexism and racism right into God and put that on the Most High. That's a hell of a crime.
Yep.
You done took the most important, significant energy in the universe and made it small and insecure. What type of craziness is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we didn't do that. As a matter of fact, upon your death, you had to go see Sister Maya, huh?
Right. That's
So
correct.
Maya she ain't no little puny goddess. She's big in the pantheon of ancient Kemet. So my point is just to say, and we know all about in Ifa and Yoruba, right? We have female and male deities. We didn't see it as one over the other. So when you know the history, just that alone helps you to see through the lies that this society is projecting to keep us divided and to create these schisms, these isms and schisms, as Bob Marley would say. Right? So woman is constantly trying to prove she's just as good as man trying to prove he's a real man. Like, no, you ain't gotta do all that, fam. Be
Yeah.
righteous, be peaceful, promote unity and harmony, and you good. So that's what it's about, man. The history, brother, is all important. And that's why I will categorically put on my boxing shoes and trunks and come out of retirement
That's funny.
intellectually and see anybody I hear talking about, oh, don't go to school and learn history. That don't make you a lot of money. Well, guess most black people ain't making a lot of money. Let's keep it real. And what is your definition of a lot of money? Right? But we need intellectual fighters who are there to be our cultural custodians and guardians. We need them. I'm not saying we need engineers and lawyers and farmers and doctors and designers and artists and all that. But you need the intellectual warriors that keep the history alive. People talking yin yang, we say, no, sir. Incorrect. Where's your proof? Because I got tons of it right here. Let's see what you're talking about.
Yes, a lot
because
of that.
My resources tell me the white man appeared on the earth in a particular year and wasn't doing nothing before that because he wasn't here.
That's right.
That's fact. Right? So the history is all important, man. I don't want to. I think I made my point with it.
You did. I want to unpack that a little bit more. And I did research myself on education and just educating children. And I found this to be very interesting. I want to share it with you and everybody else. When a child is taught racial pride, they will academically do better. And so as a classroom teacher, I'm sure you came across children that did not have racial pride. What can you tell us about some of those encounters and how difficult it was to get them to see through the conceptual incarceration, as they say, is when you're psychologically or mentally incarcerated by European ideas and European concepts?
If I can be honest, there were days I went into the bathroom and cried.
Wow.
If I can be really transparent.
Wow.
Because here I'm dealing with, I got little daughters. I'm teaching A, B, and C in the room. And then I'm in a classroom with little girls that other members of the class are calling darky and African booty scratcher and talking about her hair. And she don't got good hair. And that's very that is very damaging to a child.
Sure.
Very damaging. Those children tend, more than likely, not all the time, Brother Rollo, but more than likely, those are the children who will be involved in fighting Those are children who will be involved in getting suspended. Those are children who will be behind in their work. And it's not necessarily because they're not talented or intelligent. It's because they're unpacking or try to unpack a whole lot of psychological issues, feeling that they're ugly and they're worthless, or having to fight all the time because people are teasing about their skin color or they're dark or whatever. I mean, listen, Stevie Wonder, as politically conscious as he is, has a very popular song, Living Just Enough for the City. He says, the girl was dark, but she was sure enough pretty. Did you hear that?
Sure.
She's dark, but she's still pretty.
Right.
Even Stevie Wonder had it, and I don't know if he believed that. I'm sure he's trying to shed light on how we are. I've heard brothers tell sisters, to be dark, you kind of cute. Like, wow.
Yeah, that's a backhanded.
And I remember growing up hearing sisters say that they wanted to have a baby with so-and-so because he's light-skinned and had green eyes. We were caught up in all that foolishness. All that stuff means nothing. It means, who's going to be a good father? Hello. Holla if you heard me.
Right.
Who's going to help, do their best to help with bills? Who's going to protect? Who's going to edify and bring knowledge and wisdom and understanding into that household? All that other stuff is complete foolishness. Where's that gotten us?
Yeah.
A bunch of broken homes.
Yeah. Now you talked about children fighting. I should laugh. If it wasn't sad, I would. Either way, and I learned this study in psychology. When a person doesn't like something about themselves, they exemplify disagreeable behavior. And I'm sure you've seen this in the school. It's what I call PMO. We know what GMO is, genetically modified organism, right? Many of our people have become PMO, psychologically modified organisms. And that's because they don't understand their history and we've forgotten who we are. So I think conversation that you're conveying today is a very important one. And it's one we need to continue to have. Now, the great Dr. John Henrik Clarke always talked about the philosophical meaning of history. How do you interpret that when Dr. Clarke talks about the philosophical meaning of history?
Well, I guess I'm not exactly familiar with. I would have to hear more of what he said about it. But if he's talking about the mind, how you look at yourself, your level of pride, you're feeling adequate. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm not where I want to be. There's more I want to know, but I'm good. And because I know I'm good, I'm not going to bow down to nobody. I'm not going to scratch where I don't itch. I'm not going to laugh where the shit ain't funny.
Right.
You know how people please and do all that because they're feeling like I got to find some way to fit in. Well, the historical knowledge and the knowledge itself and pride in oneself kind of straightens your back up. It makes you take risks. You say, well, shit, if you in jail, if you a young brother or sister and you did a little petty theft and you got locked up for a few years and you moping around and you feel like, oh, man, I'm never going to get together. Hey, you pick up Autobiography of Malcolm X. Pick up Monster by Brother Monster Cody. Rest in peace to the ancestor. Look at Dhoruba bin Wahad's life. Look at my Jane and Dr. James Turner. All of them were in street gangs. Every last one. And my brother Fode Ajamu, and part of the Jiko Lakambuga Brotherhood, started out rumbling down south himself. My brother Yusef Bunchi Shakur started a gang in Detroit. That brother now got his high school degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree, doctorate degree, and he's running a community center, and he got an award-winning documentary out about his life. So when you got that history, you that brother in jail, you're like, damn, if Monster Cody could do it, if Malcolm could do it, I could do it. You see, it gives you possibility. That's very real. I don't want people to sleep on books. Books and history are very powerful. And that's why, by the way, you can tell certain things by what does your enemy deprive you of. If you just give that thought, well, they deprive you of good food. They deprive you of good schools. They deprive you of access to certain books. They deprive you to knowledge of yourself. And just right there, without any deep analysis, you say, well, damn, they must be depriving us of these things because these things are threatening to them. Why are they threatened by a brother or sister who don't need some man or woman to say you look good? They say, yeah, I know, thank you. I know that already, but thank you. I'm not going around fishing for your compliments. That comes, I'm batteries included. You feel me? Like, I know I'm good, not in an arrogant way, but spiritually I'm good. That makes a different type of person. That person's gonna be hard to con. That person's gonna be difficult to mislead. That person's gonna be almost impossible to bring into your cult. Because they're gonna be like, so wait, you telling me one man, one book, and only this organization has all the answers to everything? Oh, I know that's some bullshit.
Right.
But if you don't have that type of psychological makeup and foundation, man, you become silly putty. And it's not your fault. I want to be clear, because somebody watching this, they will be saying, damn, that's me. This ain't an attack on you. This is an attack on the people that put you in that position. And to some degree, it's an indirect attack on the people that allowed you to stay there. So if you had parents, elders in the community, people that knew better, saw, and didn't say, hey, no, sister, don't you listen to that. I was blessed to have those people. If it was up to me, my God, I don't know where I'd be. But luckily I had people when I had to fight and I was mad because I went to this Catholic school and I came to my grandmother's block and they was testing me. I had people to say, that's all right. No, some of our people mixed up. It's class. They think that you're rich because you go to Catholic school. And they think that you think you're better. And they may believe you're better. So it's a whole lot of twisted, a pathology and dysfunction in that. Right? But the history and the people, the elders who I see as walking, living history, their living history will pull you aside and say, nah. So back to the classroom analogy, brother, I knew how the sisters were teased. I knew how the sisters, too many of our sisters have been sexually mishandled. And knowing those two things, I was very sensitive to the sisters in the class. So I would make up names. I call one Tootsie Roll. Hey, Tootsie Roll, where's Tootsie Roll at? She was very dark. And she hated it. They teased her. So I tried to take that and make it something beautiful. You see? And help her. She smiled. She feel better. Her other friends, they call her Tootsie Roll. Why? Because Tootsie Roll is dark and sweet. Right? So, and I would always make sure that they felt comfortable with me as a man. See, a lot of sisters have problems with men as adults because they had problems with men as adults when they were kids. And because men as adults, when they were kids, violated them. So men as adults when you're with kids, you have to make them feel comfortable. So I had kept my door open at all times. You ain't never gonna walk by Mr. T's class and the door is closed and I'm in there with a male or female student. Doors open at all times. Sometimes the little girls, because they love you out of respect or they have their little crush, they kind of will try to come all up. And I would tell them very politely, little sister, you don't stand between a man's legs. You have to back up. Okay, that's inappropriate. I would tell them straight up. And I would also tell them, and if any man does that in this school, you let me know because that's inappropriate. You see? So those are the things you do. But that's history. I was empowered to do that, Brother Rollo, because I knew the history of how our dark-complected girls felt and how the world looked at them and how some of us in our ignorance treated them. So that's that's beautiful. That's my baby girl.
Yeah.
She's commenting that, like, when we were first started, I guess, dating, she would kind of call, so I would be in the middle of a class. I'd be, hold on. I'm like, say good morning. And I still have the phone on. And I'm like, hey, Tootsie Roll. So she would hear me saying that. That's what she's referring to. But funny. Yeah, that's very important. So, and that's important to say during this March, which is Women's History Month, that we have, when we see that there are members of our community that have been damaged, And I'm saying that word very deliberately. Damaged. Doesn't mean you can't be repaired, but it means that you got some damage. We have to intentionally put things in place, create rituals and traditions and customs and language and practices to repair them. But don't just say, "Oh, that girl is damaged. That boy is damaged." No, you gotta. If you see all the boys, I saw boys, brother, that would be taken to jail in a 7th grade because another student, a female student, could be like, "He touched me in the butt." The principal has to report it automatically. He has to be arrested. That has to change. And we have, and look, if the and now the law is that if the principal gets involved, it says in the schooling, no, he wouldn't do that. No, we're going to resolve that here. They could arrest the principal.
Wow, are you serious? That's bad.
So when you see things like that, you have to. So a brother that everyone knows now named Professor Kaba Kameni, who's a judge of mine. He's a former co-worker of mine. One of the things that he suggested when we taught together at the school we created, he said, man, every Friday, the women, the sisters should meet with the girls, and me and you, my brother, and maybe this guy Rivas and some other black male teachers, we meet with the boys. And those were some of the most, I wish we had the wherewithal to have videotaped those sessions. Woo! You talk about, and we said whatever we say in here stays in here. That's the first thing. That honor code. And we talked about all girls and sex and drugs and racism and everything, college, all that, you know. But we did that because Brother Cabo understood the severe damage they've done to our families. And if you damage a family, you're going to definitely damage the children, because the Ghanaian proverb says, when elephants fight, the grass gets crushed. That's the children. So all of that came from history. I think that speaks kind of to what some of what Dr. Clark meant by the psychological piece of history.
Yeah. Now, I have to say this. Sister Brenda, of course, is in the chat, and she said what probably is the most profound thing I've seen all day. She said, "Racial pride is spiritual food that nourishes, energizes, and advances a person or people." I just want to highlight that because I think that's very profound. You talk about history as a weapon. What is also a weapon for us, which is interesting, is culture. Culture as a weapon. Embracing our cultures. I feel as right now, after European disruption and after our subjugation to Europeans, we basically have become people that are trying to integrate and assimilate into European culture and mimic that culture as best we can and give our version of that culture. But what are your thoughts on the idea of culture also as a weapon?
Oh, well, culture, as I understand it as a black cultural nationalist does. A lot of people in the 60s, the revolutionary nationalists, sometimes joked the cultural nationalists. Y'all pork chop nationalists. All y'all do is wear dashikis and wear shades and change your names and play African drums. That ain't no revolution. And some of what they missed was that at the core they were trying to say culture is the totality of your views, your values, your priorities, your assumptions, your practices, your rituals, your habits. It's everything is under the umbrella of culture, right? And as I understand it, culture is everything. So for instance, let's say that we lived in a world where the Gen Z is caught up in video games, where Gen Z is caught up in drinking certain types of beverages that aren't the best for them, that are promoted in a certain type of music. Let's say that it's being taught that it's not cool to be smart. It's not cool to be well read. It's cool to be able to dance well and do the TikTok challenges.
Right.
That's what's cool. Being cute and all that is what's up. Being smart and well spoken, come on, man. That's corny, right? let's say we wanted to combat that. How do we do that? Well, you do that through culture. That means you gotta create a new way of thinking, a new standard of priorities, a new standard of values, a new understanding of what things are we willing. And I want everyone watching this to think of this. Just think of it. Knowing black people the way you know them, including yourself, your family, your loved ones. What are the people in your family willing to kill for? Just think about it. Just think about it. What are they willing to kill for? What are they willing to live for? Who or what are they willing to sacrifice all their money, their health, everything, good looks for? What are the important things? See, that's culture. You see? So if we created a culture where you can have a bunch of naked women around me doing whatever, sniffing coke, I'm gonna look right past them like, I just need to put some clothes on and leave them drugs alone. My brother, I need a cab. You're not even looking at that. You're oriented differently. That's culture. And one of the ways they have damaged us, man, is this cultural thing, man. I saw a brother on this TikTok. He said, my generation, unfortunately, produced drug dealers. And I was one of them. That's what he says. So this generation, even more unfortunately, is producing drug addicts. Now that's an overgeneralization because we had drug addicts too, right? The drug dealers were selling to somebody.
Right, that's true.
But what he's saying is, it's a difference in how you're looking at the world. I want to conquer something. You're doing it wrong. I want to get money. You're doing it wrong. You're hurting people. But he's saying that there's a generation now, their big thing is just getting high. You know, that's a problem. That's a cultural thing. And we have the power. It's not going to be immediate. And this is where brothers like Kwabena and Clear the Airways Project and Bob Law, God bless him. This is where they are so important because they're arguing, if you want to see a change in your young people, you got to be the change and create it. You should not be playing songs where you're like talking about rape, man. Straight up rape, gang rape sometimes. Or songs talking about using drugs. If you allow that, then are you surprised? Of course they're going to bounce to that.
Yeah.
If you don't have certain discussions with them about when they say certain things, what that really means. For instance, why is it, this is a good one to say with young people, why is it that if I say so-and-so is a faggot, all of a sudden red light, woo, 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 sirens, I'm locked up, Facebook kicking me off, YouTube kicking me off, oh my God, I'm a demon. But you can say nigga, put it in songs, you can go, my nigga, you can possess the nigga, that's my nigga.
Right.
Like you a slave master. And there's no outcry. What does that tell you? That's a good question. But what does that tell you? What meaning do you take from that? With all due respect to LGBTQ, are they more important than black people? Should black people have the same protection?
Right. Right. Well,
and the fact that we don't have the same, not only do we not have the same protection, no sirens goes off, but people encourage it.
That's right.
Whereas in that community, if you say something that's considered in that community to be offensive, some of us who ain't even in the community, you can't say that. Right. We're like, my nigga, what up?
Exactly.
I'm gonna do that again for y'all. You can't say that. That's homophobic. This is a black person. Then they'd be like, my nigga, what up? Right. Y'all see that?
Right.
See how that works? How crazy that is? But somebody has to change the culture because they're not thinking like that. They're thinking that that's okay. So someone has to have those conversations, create those books, those films, and you know what probably is the most important? Music. Art. Art can hit people in places and have the effect that no political speech and whatnot will have. That's why the Black Arts Movement was so strong. If you're not familiar, you got to check out Amiri Baraka's poem. I think it's called Black Art. Woo, man! Like they use the music and rhythm and words and space to help people feel what they were saying, to really help people understand what they were saying, and to get points across. So we have the power through culture, and history is part of your culture. How you embrace history. So in the average black family get-togethers, we celebrate we celebrate history all the time. But it may be the history of, we say, remember Motown, remember grandma, auntie, remember when they used to play, and they'll go into their memory of their favorite singers. That's history.
Sure.
We can say, you know what, I like that, but I think I want the conversation to evolve. How about we talk about some of the freedom fighters that were around right during Motown, right? So it's the way that we approach culture and use it and refer to it and uphold it that's important.
Now, Brother Jay, we run out of time, and there's any number of questions I would love to ask you, but I do want to play this because you're talking about history, and you mentioned the Black Panther Party, and you mentioned the fact that the cultural nationalists would get attacked. The Black Panther Party were actually Black socialists as opposed to Black nationalists. And then you have some people that are Black communists. And the great Dr. John Henry Clark had his opinion on communism. I want to play this, and then I want to get your response to it.
I got involved with the communists and the socialists and other radicals. Began to read literature on the Russia of that day and to see movies about Russia. I was never a member of the Communist or the Socialist Party. I was active briefly in the Young Communist League. We were looking for a way out of the condition in which we live. And they opened doors for us and gave us a platform we otherwise did not have. Paul Robeson was the one artist who made the great sacrifice based on commitment. And that commitment is that an artist is supposed to use his or her art to change the society in which they live. W.E.B. Du Bois is our greatest single intellect we produced in the whole of the Western world. And he's not just a Black American intellect. He is an American intellect equal to any. W.E.B. Du Bois, Paul Robeson, the party came closest to what those men wanted to stand for in the world was a fair deal for the working people of the world. We would examine it later to our sorrow. We were in an...
If you can... Oh, man. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. They hit me with a commercial. But the point is, he was saying that communism was just another brand of oppression for Black people. They weren't really trying to free us, per se, the communists. It was just another brand or another form of oppression. What was your opinion on what Dr. Clark was getting at in that clip?
Yeah, about? I take it to mean that anything, any idea, ideology, philosophy, political ideology, spiritual ideology, cultural, whatever we're drinking and eating, we should examine it first. We should make sure whatever we say we are, that it is putting us in a position of empowerment, that it is not another form of genocide, another form of propaganda disguised as a political ideology, or disguised as a spiritual faith, or disguised as some cultural practice. It means that, and if we look in our history, again, we coming back to that history, we'll see that Black people were never dummies. We understood that these people didn't like us and were trying to exploit us. So we took everything they gave us and taught us with great suspicion and skepticism, as we should have. So a lot of the enslaved Africans on plantations, yeah, they had to, listen to the white man read from the Bible or whoever, but they didn't take what he was saying literally. When he's talking about the Israelites and the Egyptians, what they're reading, what they're hearing is, wait a minute, so one oppressed the other one? One group was slaves, and they had to fight their way to freedom, and God was on the side of the oppressed. We the oppressed. So that means God is on our side too. That means that we can fight and should fight. That's how Nat Turner took it. So, and that's why it should be no surprise that most of the modern fathers of Black nationalism in the United States were Christian. Henry McNeil Turner, Martin Delaney, and I can keep going if you like, but they weren't Christians the way we understand it today. They looked at that different, man. So that's where people get caught up. That's the white man's. No, it's the white man's. If you practice it, understand it, operationalize it the way he does, then it is the white man's. But if you take what he's talking about and you Africanize that ain't the white man's no more. That's yours. That's my possession. That's like when what's this white girl's name died of anorexia? Kathy, what's her name? Carpenter. She made a song called "Don't You Remember You Told Me You Love Me, Baby? Don't you remember you told me you love me, baby?" And it was like kind of whack. And then here comes a black man, the original man of the universe, named Luther Vandross. And he completely rearranged that, smoothed it out. Now his joint was "Don't You Remember." Now that's a classic. That ain't Karen Carpenter's song no more, fam. He owned that by completely rearranging it. That's what we do with religion. So if we don't do that, we should not take anything from anyone without assessing it. And if we deem it fit, we should change it and tweak it to fit our interests. Right? So in other words, I was just telling the Queen, Black people in this day and time, Black people need spiritual centers, political organizations, cultural festivals. But it ain't just about come by my bean pie, come read this, let's do this, let's dance. You better be talking about this is how we're going to organize. This is the protest. This is where we're meeting. This is how we're building this cooperative. This is how we're solving this problem. We have to be, anything that we take in has to help us understand the world we occupy, our role in it, and equip us to navigate it and to master it. So that means it has to fuse ideas with action. Now, what Dr. Clark is talking about, his disdain for communism, I can understand that. I mean, Du Bois wrote about it extensively. Ralph Ellison, Richard Wright, they all said that they joined it because they thought it was good for Black people, and then they saw that they were just like other white folk. They get it, they want to tell you what to do, who to organize, what to say. Like, nah, we know our people better than you do. Excuse me. So with that respect, it's not unlike any white philosophy. But the beauty with us is we never kind of took their stuff verbatim. Right? We took it and read and saw ourselves in the story, and we said, well, how can we tweak that to make sense to us? Kind of like native Latinos did the same thing with Yoruba, right? They took Yoruba and the deities or the orishas and this and that in the story, and they inserted their own orishas, but it's the same thing. They Latinoized it, if you will, but they will tell you it comes straight from Nigeria. It's to say all peoples do this, right? So with that said, if people are talking about we should fight against class oppression, not just race oppression, but class oppression and gender oppression, I'm with that. If they call themselves a communist, so be it. That don't mean that I call myself one. I'm a nationalist and a Pan-Africanist, but I also know that, we can't just rock around race. We got to also know about capitalism. We got to be anti-imperialist. We got to be anti these European colonizers. And we got to bang on them, and we got to expose them. And not just that, we got to create our own independent economic engines so we don't have to keep being involved in unfair and predatory trade agreements with people who despise our very presence. So for me, it all comes back to how you interpret it, making it relevant for you, or saying this has no relevance for us and we reject it outright. But you don't drink or eat anything from other people without examining it. So with respect to that, I agree with Dr. Clark. As you can see, I deconstructed it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I think as a colonized people, we have the right and responsibility to use the weapons at our disposal until we build new ones,
Absolutely. So, Brother Ajay, we're completely out of time now, but you are starting a new podcast. What can you tell us about that before we get off?
Yes, sir. Thank you. The podcast is called Wukusu Class. WUCUSU for Wake Up, Clean Up, Stand Up. And it's basically political education. I'm doing a little bit of political education mixed with a little bit of self-empowerment, mixed with a little leadership tips. And you can find it anywhere you find podcasts. Type Wukusu Class, you'll come right to it. I want to end with some quick things because we're running out of time, I know. I want to say this, family, 4 points. Heal your relationships. Forgive your family members. Work through the weird arguments and issues you got with your friends, your spouses. This is a time we got to heal. 2, form alliances with Black groups in your city. Try to get past the divisiveness and find things on which you agree, and try to work together and share resources and ideas. 3, understand what the issues are in your city or town. Who are the people that are on the front line of fighting them? Connect with them, learn more, and get involved. Join an organization. Support an organization with resources, with money, or promote their events, or start an organization if you feel there's a void and you have an idea or an issue that no one's addressing. And lastly, in this time of great paranoia, it's very important that you do things to overcome your fear, to overcome your anxiety, to overcome your cynicism, and to overcome your bitterness. Those are the 4 demons that will rob us of any love, peace, happiness, freedom, justice, equality. If you in fear, you're anxious, you're cynical, and everything's wrong, you don't see no beauty in nothing, right? Always fault finding, and you're bitter, you can't mount a liberation movement on that. You can't run a household with that. You can't have no thriving community or business with that. So those things I just want to leave people with, fam.
I like that. Now, how can people get the book?
Wukusu?
Yes.
I would say type the name, go to Amazon, type the name Wukusu right in that search. Ain't nothing else that says Wukusu. It's gonna come right up.
Right. And so we got a question in the chat about the podcast being on Spotify. We got an affirmative. It's gonna be on Spotify.
Yes, it's on Spotify.
Is it gonna be on the TuneIn app?
I know it's on Spotify, it's on Apple, it's on Amazon Music.
Okay.
I would say, family, if you just type in Wukusu Class, it'll take you to all the different places on. But I know it's on all the major ones, and I know that with the Apple, there's like 10 other ones that are built in too.
Okay.
So it's definitely there.
Can we listen live? Can we listen live, or is this pre-recorded?
They're all pre-recorded.
Okay. And so how often do we
download them? People just click it and it plays.
How often does a new show go up?
Every Wednesday at 7 p.m. But what I've done is I preloaded about 5-6 of them that take us all the way to March.
Oh wow! All right. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Now, are you gonna upload any of this to Harlem Liberation School so people can listen on YouTube as well?
I was thinking, because there's a podcast section on YouTube on the channel, so I might do that. I kind of want for some reason, people learn differently and they have a different type of experience when they watch a video versus they're doing their cycling and they're listening to it, or they're cooking and they're listening to it. So people like different experiences. So that's why I kind of try to mix it up.
Okay. So every Wednesday we're gonna go ahead and look for that, and I will definitely be reminding people, and definitely go to search engine. I don't like to mention the name of corporations that are not underwriting the DJ Tiger channel, so I'll just say go to a search engine and put Wukusu, WUCUSU, which stands for Wake Up, Clean Up, Stand Up, and go ahead and get that book. And I would say go to Harlem Liberation School on YouTube, like and subscribe, and get started watching the videos there. Brother Ajay, I want to thank you. I do want to mention, before I get off, the demonstrations that are taking place this week in the continuing ongoing campaign against Netflix. The first one is going to be tomorrow, March the 4th, at Madison Square Garden at 6:30. The second one is going to be Thursday, March the 6th, in front of the Barclays Arena in Brooklyn. So come out and show your support for CMOTAP, show your support for Clear the Airways Project, and show your support for the nationwide campaign that has been launched against Netflix for portraying us in a stereotypical way in 2025. I'll make that the period. I'll leave it there. I want to thank everybody that joined us in the chat. Salute to DJ Tiger, always. Shout out to Brother Kwabana too, man. He got in the chat and he said some things. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank everybody for listening. And big up to the people too that watched the pre-recorded version on YouTube. Gonna start posting the shows on my website, which is offthecorner.net. The only one that's up there now is the History of Conscious Rap Part 1. And if anybody wants to copy paste the letter that CMOTAP wrote to Netflix, you can go to offthecorner.net. The letter's there as well. You can copy paste that, put that in an email, copy paste that, or put that in the snail mail, print it out on paper, and just send it over to them. And express your discontent to Netflix with the way they are portraying us. They know they're wrong, but sometimes you might have to remind them. Either way, Brother Ajay, I want to thank you again for joining us, brother, and we look forward to having you again first Monday of next month, brother.
That's right. Always my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity and the platform, for sharing the platform. Shout out to DJ Tiger. Shout out to all of you in the chat. We can win, but we got to put in the work, family. We got to put in the work. No way around it.
That's right. And I say on the last note, oppression is not normal and it's not natural. Therefore, it's right to fight oppression. And no oppression lasts forever.
That's right.
Don't think you can't fight and win. You can. A lot of people are defeated before they don't even consider fighting. And I'm gonna say this last thing before we get off. If, Brother Ajay, the street, if somebody tries to punk you in the street and you don't respond to getting punked, you'll be seen as a coward.
And they're gonna punk you forever.
You will forever be seen as a coward. As Black people, we've been getting punked for 500 years. We got no response to getting punked because a lot of us think we can't win. So we got to stop being cowards. We got to stand up and we got to fight. And on that note, I'll leave it there. Thank you, Brother Ajay, again for joining us, brother.
All right. Peace out, family.
Peace.